All right, Thor, welcome. Glad you could make it, man.
Hey, thanks for having me, Bill.
So,
Pleasure.
so what? Is that what everybody really calls you, or is it just part of your handle on these social platforms?
Yeah, my real name's Evan. 2012, I decided to grow my hair out, get some superpowers, and
Uh
people literally just started calling me Thor in the streets. So
huh.
uh,
That's funny.
so I just went with it. Yeah.
Yeah, as it turns out, my son has a similar haircut, and his baseball team does that to him. They call him Thor or the Viking or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was working at the Crown Plaza in Times Square on this big media conference, and the CEO of the company goes, there, we were, you know how they have these superheroes in Times Square dressing up as the Marvel characters, and
Yeah, yeah,
well, there was a Thor. Are you still there?
yeah. I'm just showing you full screen.
Oh, good. Now I can see what I look like. Great. So there was a Thor, and he was in like a cheap plastic costume. So the CEO of this company says, "Hey, let's go to a costume shop and buy you a legit Thor costume and get you out there in Times Square." So if you go to my YouTube channel, it's Evan Torrens, and type in Thor goes to Times Square, you'll see a ridiculous video we did where we went to a costume shop, got a $500,000 Thor costume, and then I walked through the streets as Thor. It was pretty
Oh my
hilarious.
god! Wow,
So
I will definitely be checking that out.
yeah, so ever since then, people kind of been calling me Thor, and now I feel the social pressure where I can't get a haircut. But then Thor in the movie got a haircut, so I'll be his stand-in and work with him. So anyone out there listening, shoot me a holler.
Right on, right on.
Yeah,
So, I was telling you, just for you, all you guys listening, Thor and I literally just met a few minutes ago, and a lot of times I'll chit chat with people before, but I was like, hey, let's just get to know each other on the podcast. And you're a bit of a mystery to me because I see you in these clubhouse rooms, or hear you, and I always really enjoy it, but I really don't know. Like, so many people seem to have like I don't want to use, maybe I will use the word agenda, or they've got a project or something. And you just strike me as just being sort of this every man, this just there to be there and help out and not really trying to promote anything. Do I have that right?
yeah, pretty much. My friend Andrew Mitchell, he invited me to Clubhouse because he told me I would do good on it. And a few months later, here we are, and 1,700 followers later, and growing by the day. And it's there's something unique about being able to use your voice, where people can feel your vibe and your intention.
Hmm.
That gets lost in translation via text on the other social medias.
Yeah.
Where things get taken out of context, or people take things the wrong way. It's harder to joke, and. So yeah, to answer your question, I kind of just joined to, listen in and learn. I kind of crave knowledge, and I'm always going down rabbit holes. So I would just listen in on rooms. And as of now, I really don't know, I'm not really promoting anything except, this BitClout thing has taken the world by storm. March 12th, we founded the BitClout Club, a little bit after midnight. And right away, people started following it like minutes later. And I
Hmm.
was I was like, oh crap. Like, so what was happening? They were trying to be the founder of that club too, and
Oh,
I had just somehow, because the news just got announced, went and found it. And then I woke up and there was like already 50 followers or something. And I'm like, okay, this is this has legs. Like, because I had done a few other clubs that like still to this day have 20 followers.
yeah.
So it was pretty remarkable, and it continues to be so. So yeah, I'm not really selling anything or pushing anything as of yet. I really enjoy shining the light on artists,
Mhm.
unique genius, and just bringing people up to stage, reading their bio. Clubhouse is amazing because it's like a podcast on steroids.
Yeah.
Except not only can you listen to your favorite speakers, but then you can raise your hand, ask a question, or add value, and also it's a competition, right? But
Yeah.
the competition is who can add more value? And that's just a win-win for everyone. So I've been really loving Clubhouse and the synergistic, symbiotic relationship it has with BitClout now. So yeah, you kind of hit it right on the head. I was a little bit of a mystery, and I didn't really come in trying to sell or promote anything. I was coming in to learn and to form, long-lasting partnerships and make new friends.
So before BitClout came along, because it just sort of like poof, it arrived and nobody knew about it. On Clubhouse, what sort of rooms were you inhabiting
Yeah,
before?
I was going into the domain rooms a lot, the digital real estate rooms.
Mm-hmm.
That's been a hobby of mine, probably the last 10 years, 15 years, where I you know how you're with friends and you make jokes and you're like, oh, that would be a cool band name.
Yeah.
So we kind of segued from the cool band names into the cool.coms, so for fun, I would just buy them. And then when I went into Clubhouse, I said, oh, wow, people are selling these, people are flipping these, people are developing these. So I kind of self-taught myself web design, and I would go in these domain rooms and be like, hey, that's an awesome domain. Like, let's develop together. So I would form partnerships like that. And then I was also into the numerology and astrology rooms, something that I find fascinating, but never was really moderating or hosting. It's kind of more a listening and a speaker as a guest. And now when I started hosting and moderating, I kind of didn't know what I was doing. No one told me the guidelines or the rules,
Right.
Which I think is a beautiful thing sometimes, because that's where accidents happen and like you kind of reinvent the wheel, so to speak.
Well, I kind of feel like what little times I've seen you moderate, it's more like I liken it to the guy that's just kind of the life of the party, but loves everybody that walks in the door. Because as soon as somebody shows up, you're like, oh my God, there's so-and-so, man, how you doing? And, a lot of the moderators aren't so casual, but that was my impression. But, and then with this, and so you started this club involving BitClout, and have you had to sort of enlist a lot of assistance with that?
No, it's kind of all grown organically. We make this Ocean 11's joke or X-Men, and this really unique, beautiful crew has formed. We're calling them the OGs, and it's kind of the first adopters to the big clubs. We got the 8-Pit, we got Michael Joseph, who's a great friend of mine now, and we just met 3 weeks ago. He's got the BitClout community. We got BitClout users with the Krasenstein twins. We got Team BitClout with Diamond Cheeks, Justin Reyes. We got
I see you all together. I tend to lurk more than anything. I don't really like to get on stage, so I just I just love to listen more than anything.
Yeah, and we got BitClout Analysis with Ali Alexander, and none of us are in competition. I don't
see. You just said that. I never really considered that everyone had kind of their own club, but because I really see you all in the same room all the time, and I've never even noticed that maybe you're all in different clubs.
Exactly.
Or have your own different clubs.
Yeah, I haven't even started a room in the BitClout Club in 2 weeks.
Wow, that's funny.
And yet we're still getting the following and the support and the love. So that just goes to show you what's special about this community.
Yeah. Now, how much of that is a BitClout community or just a Clubhouse vibe?
I think it's a combo. Without Clubhouse, I wouldn't probably even be on BitClout yet, but maybe I would, because I've been first mover on a lot of other stuff. Excuse me. But without Clubhouse, I definitely wouldn't have over 1,500 followers. My coin price definitely wouldn't be over, $1,500 as we record this. So it's been this synergistic relationship, where I love bringing people on stage, having them perform or having them tell the audience what they do, and then driving traffic to their profile where then people can show them love and support them.
I agree. It's a lot like a podcast on steroids, but since I'm already involved in podcasting, this was a natural thing for me. But I also, what I miss about what I've noticed with Clubhouse is I don't feel like people get enough time to really tell their story. because of the competitive nature, I like seeing people that I've heard speak many times on Clubhouse really get the stage for a long time and not feel the pressure of, okay, other people want to talk. So that's kind of where I literally, we do another podcast and we've set it up to where we can record the podcast like you and I are doing, but stream it through a Clubhouse room so that people can come watch the recording, so to speak, and then we can open it for discussion after the recording. But we're just new to that. It took me about a week to figure out the technology, but it's doable. So, but I just like that person having the stage. It could be the same person that has been talking to the same people all along, but never really having that opportunity for people to hear their intimate story, so to speak.
Yeah, and that was kind of part of the accident where I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was like not a common trend of Clubhouse until I started going to other big rooms. And I agree with you, man. I love to hear people have the floor, share their story. I don't like when everyone's trying to hit the mic as quick as they can and interject and cut in. I like that pregnant pause and that deep breath and, just take it step by step.
Yeah, it's hard. Every time I speak on there, I'm like, oh my God, I feel like I need to stop talking because somebody else wants to talk. And so, yeah, it's very interesting. So tell me how you got involved. Like, I know you said somebody turned you on to BitClout, but like, what was your reaction how did they describe it to you? Maybe would be a better question.
Yeah, when I went to BitCloutWhitepaper.com and I started reading, and I got about 2 paragraphs into the creator coins, and I'm like, oh my God, I've had this idea, but I didn't have the wherewithal or the balls, for lack of a better word, to implement the growth hacks they did, because I've had a few friends in my life that I met them when they're anonymous social accounts with like 10 followers. Then they ended up showing their face and growing and getting like 300,000 followers on Twitter. And I would always joke with them like, hey man, I invested in you when you were penny stock. I knew you when you had 10 followers. If only there was a way I could get monetary gain off that, seeing the potential in you. Or, I keep bringing up the image of Notorious B.I.G. Biggie Smalls, like in 1994 in Atlantic Avenue on Brooklyn, where he's out in the street with a huge crowd of people, and he grabs the microphone and just starts spitting absolute bars where you get the goosebumps and you're like, oh my God, this guy's going to be a living legend. This guy's going to be one of the best rappers of all time. Or when you go to a concert, right, and you get there early and you see the opening act and you're like, who are these guys? And then you're like, oh man, these guys are good. And then you're like, I think these guys might be better than the headlining act right here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, well now maybe if they have a BitClout profile, I can then go over, invest in their coin and ride that wave to fame and fortune with them. So now it's not a conversation where I'm saying, told you so. It's a conversation where it's like, look at my wallet,
Well, and it's fun at the same time. You're invested in something you enjoy and that you're a fan of.
Exactly. And it's a skill. Seeing talent in people is a skill. I have this channel on YouTube called NYC Street Music that I created over 6 years ago because I was working in Manhattan. I was in the television business for 15 years. And every day I would walk by these amazing artists, these genius musicians, and people who are in the rat race stuck in the 9 to 5. They would just walk right by them, and I would always stop and honor them and throw them some money and talk with them. And then I realized, I'm like, NYC Street Music, like, let's start the website, let's start the YouTube channel, let's give these guys a platform so the world can see them. And now it's kind of like, wow, now they can start. What I'm so excited about this, Bill, is a lot of artists were put on the back burner. A lot of artists were shelved. A lot of artists were stolen from,
Yeah.
And because that artistic genius is taking up that bandwidth in their brain, they don't have that capacity to learn Facebook marketing, to learn business tactics, to learn all these skills, and they may not have the finances to pay a manager. Well, now maybe in this new land, this BitClout, they're not going to need that as much. You know, it's almost like a set it and forget it, put out your content, and if you're hot, you're going to pop. You know, the cream's going to rise to the top, and people are going to come in groves and support you. And that's a beautiful thing, man. Like, that's the way it should be. You know, let's give back to the artists. It's their turn, you know, and it's overdue.
Are you still in New York?
I am. Yeah. So I was a teleprompter operator. And I started off as a production assistant on commercials and music videos, a lot of hip hop videos. And then I went to work at NBA TV as a teleprompter operator. And then they left to Atlanta, and they kind of invited me to Atlanta, but I didn't want to leave New York. So then I joined one of the top teleprompting companies in New York, VIP Prompting. And they have like some of the highest clientele in the world, CEOs, politicians, presidents, you know. So I got to meet, you know, you name a celebrity, I worked with them. Name a politician, I met them. So I really got to feed off that, and that rubbed off on me, and I got to see the way a lot of power players moved.
So tell me your most interesting or funny story involving a teleprompter mishap.
Ooh, okay. There's a few of them. So we would do these charity dinners, you know, big charity dinners with a lot of wealthy, powerful people. And a lot of them we would do in the Intrepid, which is the sea vessel on the Hudson River on the west side of Manhattan. And we went through the rehearsals, we edited the script, everything was fine. You have your lectern on stage with your glass teleprompters next to them. And before the honor of the house came out to open up and introduce and speak, they had the young dancers of New York, you know, the high school dancers, come and do a dance routine to Jay-Z and Alicia Keys' New York song. And it starts off with a kid doing his break dance and his windmill. And Bill, he literally does a windmill into the lectern, knocking off the teleprompters, and lands on the first dining table of like the richest people in the room. And the food splashes everywhere. The glass on the prompter shatters, and he gets back on stage and just finishes his dance like nothing happened.
Yeah, the show must go on. So what about, have you ever messed up somebody's prompt? Like, are you running the prompter feed and like having to keep the wording going at the proper pace? And
yeah, so you gotta get a good, it's almost like a dance, like a rhythm. You gotta work with cadence. And
you ever messed it up real bad?
I never really messed it up, believe it or not. You know, I was one of the top requested guys in our company, and I pretty much said yes to every single job. And that opened up a lot of doors for me. I was able to go to Cannes with Sacha Baron Cohen. I was able to go to Prague with Christian Slater, and what's the director's name now? He's really my guy, famous DP. Man, I'm forgetting his name, and I really want to give him a shout out. But yeah, Christian Slater in Prague, Sacha Baron Cohen going to Cannes. And then the craziest part is going to the White House. You know, I ended up getting a job at the White House and doing some teleprompting there, which was really cool and fascinating. And just working with all these actors and these politicians, both on the Democrat and Republican side, I was able to learn a lot, you know, and experience a lot of growth and make a lot of great connections. And then I kind of left the White House and I said, you know, how do I one up this? You know, because it's a little bit of a depressing feeling. You know, how do you one up that? And it's like, all right, now it's time to spread my wings, start creating my own things, start building community, start leading and just helping people, you know, and just shining the light on people. And that's what we've been able to do here. And it's been really exciting.
Awesome. So have you ever thought about going back to the streets of New York and profiling one of those street musicians and trying to work them into something like on BitClout?
Yeah. So it's funny you said that. I went to Brooklyn last night and met with one of my favorite artists. He's a world traveler. I won't say his name yet, but I showed him it, and now I'm thinking like this can really help the street musicians, and they should all know about this because they're already in that space, but in the real world, they're
Yeah.
sitting out there on the streets busking. And why not do that in this metaverse digital world too, So I have thought about it, and what I'm looking for now, I got 3 kids now, and I can't be in the subways all day long filming musicians. So I am looking for a partner for NYC street music. I do want to find, a young, hungry person with a camera or even an iPhone who's going to go out there, videotape,
Mm-hmm.
record, videotape. I'm like in the 1990s right now. Record these artists and then put, my YouTube channel for NYC street music. It already has 7,000 subscribers. It already has over 3 million views. And that's with me not putting out any content in 5 years. So imagine if we could do a weekly episode. And that's kind of my vision and my dream for that, where we can kind of do an American Idol of the streets. So if anyone out there listening would like to collaborate and help out with that, I'm all ears, and let's do it.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I'm actually in the Atlanta area, but I love shooting in New York and usually try to hire local people to help me. And maybe I know somebody, I don't know, I have to check. But find that young person with time on their hands. That could be awesome, because I think about what the possibilities could be, using, is there a way to use either, Street Music New York as a handle that is like a fund to underwrite the production, or you set up separate accounts for each competitor and have people vote with their coin.
Exactly.
It seems like there could be a lot of possibilities there.
Yeah.
So when I first came across you in a way where I was like, hey, I'd really like to talk to Thor, I think it was revolving around BitClout.
Yeah.
Were you involved with that?
Kinda, but not so much anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, not so much anymore.
Okay. I'm still a little confused on what it's become because of this sort of, I don't want to call it a hack necessarily, but where the seed phrases have been compromised and now there's name changes, and
yeah,
I haven't heard the whole story. So if you don't know the whole story, I won't, ask you to burden people with it or anything.
I'd rather not speak on it.
Yeah, I get that.
In this light, in this,
yeah. Yeah. And then similarly, late last night I was listening to a room that was pretty charged, and I was like, okay, I gotta be done. And I think you came along, and some people were going to ask you your opinion of it, and you were like, well, I really just kind of came along. I don't really know what happened. So it had to do with some kind of scam that someone was sucked up into, and that this room sort of put her back, into reality. And I don't know what she got involved with. Were you told?
Yeah,
it sounded pretty serious.
Yeah, I got a brief debrief. I've never used that term in my life. And they basically said, Ali and others brought you the topic of transparency. Then a young lady came up on stage and spoke apologetically while crying for pumping and dumping. She was selling her own coin. And she said she didn't know what she was doing and admits her mistake and that she stopped. And said it was a long story, but that was it in a nutshell.
Yeah. Yeah, I did get that much, but it sounded like there were some other people alongside her, like prompting her into the.
Yeah, so I don't know too much about it, other than I think it's what we've seen a lot in this community, where we're seeing these learning lessons unfold in live time, and people are now learning what a good reputation is, what it's like to be conscious and do the right thing. And that's just been beautiful. It's like, I keep telling people, like, even if this, because a lot of people attack me. I got attacked on Twitter by a big account for quote unquote shilling BitClout. And I said, listen, man, even if BitClout were to go away, one thing that I'm not wrong is on these people. One thing I'm not wrong is on this community. And we're seeing really beautiful lessons unfold in live time, you know, where people realize now that those old tricks and those old gimmicks, they're not going to work in this new land. They're not going to work in this new paradigm, with the collective consciousness and everybody learning and growing together. And literally we're witnessing people's consciousness rise before everyone's eyes. And it's just been nothing short of magical to be a part of. And I really just thank everybody who's been a part of it. And I'm really excited to keep it going. You know, I think that girl, like a few other people who have learned in our rooms, are looking at the world a little differently now. You know, we had Vegas Dave coming on BitClout, who I don't know him, but the MO that I was hearing about him was that he was a little bit of a scam artist in the sports betting world of Twitter. And then he kind of came in BitClout and artificially pumped his coin to $10,000. And we were watching it in live time, and I'm like, wow, how is this going to play out? And, you know, he ended up getting wrecked a little. He ended up pretty wrecked. And, you know, I don't want to see anyone get hurt, but I was kind of like, you know, cool, because people are not going to be able to pull that BS now, you know.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there is still going to be ways that people are going to manipulate and be nefarious and move in a unethical manner. But I really am optimistic and think that the good users are going to mitigate the bad ones, and that overall, because of that, it will be a net positive in the end.
Yeah, I'm certainly hoping so. I think, you know, I think there's been an enormous amount of just great ideas that people think of all the time. Like every day there's a new idea that can be built on this. I think, you know, sadly there's going to be an equal amount of bad ideas that can be built on it. And you hope that the community can moderate that. Or does it just get so big that it becomes, you know, factions or shards of the platform where people go where their echo chamber is and do their thing. It's early to tell. I heard Brian and Ed, one of them this morning, talking, really kind of exposing to me that I'd never thought of, the idea that, you know, this kind of could become like a base layer for other platforms that we already use, where they're all connected, and you know, money you earn in one, you can spend in another, and it becomes a whole different economy. You know, just, you don't think I hadn't really considered it, but it'll be interesting to see, you know, because you forget that this is a blockchain and that it can be built upon. And that's the part I think where I'm, as much as I've been involved in crypto, I'm still like, I think what Brian was pointing out was like, look, it's not BitClout.com. You have to forget that it's BitClout.com. It's actually just BitClout, the blockchain. And that the .com can go away, but the blockchain is still there for other things to be built on and use it.
Exactly.
But the info's the data is still all there.
Yeah. And it doesn't go away. A lot of people are learning about the blockchain. Those twins, the Krasenstein twins, you know, they have BitCloutForum.com or BitCloutForums.com. And then I was just thinking, before I forget, Jeffrey David. I want to give a shout out to Jeffrey David and Echo Smith. Not only did he just start BitClout Records, the first record label on BitClout, but he's also selling real estate. He's selling a condo in LA on BitClout. So you're right, man. All these things are being built right in front of our eyes. Sigil, 17-year-old Sigil, still in high school, has literally built the first off-ramp where you can now convert BitClout coin to Ethereum, and it's called BitSwap. And it's
amazing to watch.
It is totally amazing to watch.
And all these people are high on my list of future guests. Well, Krasensteins were actually, Brian was he was my last guest. But, you know, definitely Jeffrey and Sigil are right up there at the top. So it's funny you mention them, because I see, you know, 17 years old, for goodness sake, and already within a week or so puts out some off ramp for this thing. Is just mind blowing to me. at my age, I'm just thrilled to be, able to try and do something as an early adopter and see something unfold. And I've been that way. I've felt that way about being involved in crypto all along. It's just been one of those things where I've been just supercharged about it. Friends and family don't get it, but that's part of the burden we have, right? But but watching the youngest of us and what they do is mind blowing to me, because they just think so much differently. Their worldview is so different, and to see what they can produce so rapidly and in ways that you can't conceive is just, that to me is what is the foreshadowing of what the future of this technology is. That's the true foreshadowing of it. We're all older people just trying to make something that we can work with this stuff. But these kids are looking way to the future, and they don't even have to change their worldviews. They're just doing what's natural.
Yeah, I'd like to learn from them. I love listening in on them, because I'm 36 years young, and I'm not dumb enough to know that these guys know a lot more than I do in their niches.
Yeah, it's crazy to watch. So, what other projects do you have? Like, what's really like something that's charging you up that you're ready to start really jumping on with BitClout?
Yeah, so I have a few websites and ideas that I'm going to implement into BitClout. One being ubillions.com, and I got the handle ubillions on BitClout, and I'm calling it the #1 online store for billionaires. Where
already my mind's going wild just thinking about it.
Yeah, so my vision is to put this ubillions on the blockchain and broker the deals for literally the most expensive things in the world that money can buy. And that's just kind of a far out concept right now. I also have rentmars.com, where we're going to be the first real estate landlord on Mars. So if you go to rentmars.com, you can check that out.
All right, so I think most people listening to it would say that's the craziest thing in the world, but we're already doing it in the digital world.
Yeah,
with Splinterlands and what's the word, Decentraland, and Second Life, even.
And then I have exactly. You hit it right in the head, and I would love to hear more ideas from you and everyone out there. I'm all about the collaboration. I have good ideas, but then I
want some oceanfront property on Mars. Can you do that for me?
Yeah. Once we find water there, yeah. And, Elon Musk, if you're listening, rentmars.com, man, let's collaborate.
Right.
And then I have Zekware.com and Zek.art. Zek stands for Zcash. That's
right.
That's my
your thing, right?
It's my favorite cryptocurrency. Some people get on me for it. I look at it like I love Bitcoin. It's a store of value, like digital gold, and I love it. But I think there's other protocols that are going to be in the space that are going to also be winners.
But Zcash is like hardcore privacy.
Yeah, it's optional privacy. They use a gangster-ass mathematical equation called zero knowledge proofs. So a zero knowledge proof is basically, I can prove to you that I have something and that I'm verifiable and trusted without revealing what it is. And it's that simple. And my belief is, and a lot of other top experts in the crypto space, is just how people are going to Signal and Telegram to speak in private. What's going to stop people from going to Zcash and store their wealth in private? So it's a very, very attractive digital asset that I've been investing in personally, and that a bunch of others have been. So I started a little store selling. We were curating art from Fiverr and Upwork and all these places, and putting the art on Zek.art, and then putting the art on T-shirts and pants. And then Zcash reached out to me, and they were like, "Hey." I thought they were going to send me a cease and desist letter, but they were kind of like, "Hey, we love it. It looks awesome, and we love the name, and like, how can we support you and work together?" And I was like, "Oh man, yes." So I spoke to Rhett, shout out to Rhett, and he's going to help me work on it, and we're going to form a little partnership. And I got big visions for fashion and tech and those worlds merging together. So that's kind of what I'm passionate about in that space. But nothing's really up and running yet, so to speak. So I'm really not driving too much traffic anywhere as of yet. I'm kind of just talking about it and bouncing ideas off of people. And there's just so many genius minds inside of Clubhouse that it's like I just feel privileged and honored to be in these rooms and get in these conversations where it's like every day I feel like I'm getting smarter and wiser and learning so much.
Mm-hmm. What's been your impression of the skeptics or the detractors? Like, have you seen an adoption rate with them?
Yeah, you're seeing a few of them start to convert and flip.
What's doing it for them?
I have a pretty good memory, and I remember in the first week of our rooms, we had a lot of people coming in that were angry, and that's getting less and less now. And we've gone through the same processes and questions so many times that like a lot of people are seasoned now in the responses.
Yeah. What are they most angry about?
At first, they're angry about the 15,000 pre-population, the growth hack where they took people's identities, and is that ethical or not? And it's a good argument. And my opinion, we don't know yet. You can manipulate people for good and you can manipulate people for bad, but the proof is in the pudding. And we're seeing a lot of these big accounts come and verify their account and claim it. Right. They love it. They love it.
Well, I think it was one of the most genius parts of this. It's what I heard about it and thought, well, that sounds kind of weird. But then when I saw it, because I was very quick to go from skeptic to like jumping on board, like within half a day.
Yeah.
And most of that time was spent just trying to figure out how to do it because it was so confusing back then. And there's things I hear people talk about now where I'm like, well, that wasn't even my experience. I think the platform was so shaky that I felt like I could barely get like Merlin. I still don't even really know about Merlin because I never experienced this mythical Merlin putting any funds in my account, so to speak. Yeah. So I can't speak authoritatively at all about it. When I feel like that's where I hear people in rooms talking about it. I'm like, I don't even want to be asked a question because I never experienced this. So, but at the same time, and I guess with the whole idea of propagating all of those identities or those accounts, my feeling is, look, you're a public figure. You've put yourself out there to millions of people, and that's the exact likeness that you put out there for millions of people to consume. And you live and die by how much people consume that image and likeness. Mm-hmm. Compound that with not only, did they just simply bring what probably Twitter may claim they own anyway. I don't know.
Well, that's the thing.
And not only that, but then they've done it in a way where there's literal, we all talk about it being monopoly money now and all of that, but let's be frank, everybody's looking to a future where there's going to be a way to liquidate that or off ramp it.
Yeah.
So these people that may be cranky about that someone's image was used, those people are going to not be able to ignore when their image is now worth a hell of a lot of money sitting there, just waiting for them to come rug pull if they want.
Yeah. Michael Joseph, he said it best when he quotes Scooter Braun. He says, hotels didn't like Airbnb. The taxi drivers did not like Uber. I forget the third one, but the point is, rarely is the innovators liked because they're disruptors.
Right.
We're going through a radical evolution.
Well, to recall how, with Clubhouse, suddenly, it's sort of started really catching on in the past couple of months. Yeah. And suddenly Zuckerberg and Jack Dorsey and all show up on the platform to sort of announce that, well, they're going to do the same thing in Spotify, and everybody else is like, we'll do our own Clubhouse. Yeah. Well, do you feel like maybe you'll see that with Twitter or Facebook where they're like, well, we're going to do a similar blockchain-y coin tokenization of members and all of that?
You know, I think it's too late. I think that ship has sailed. I think they overplayed their hand. I think they got a lot of people angry, and a little bit too much power went to their head. And I think a lot of people didn't agree with, how they were shadow banning, how they were canceling. I had a page on Facebook back in the day with over 100,000 likes on it, and I would get so much organic traffic and growth. And then one day I woke up and there was like 5 likes on a post, and I was like, what? And all of a sudden you had to pay, show your audience what you were doing. And I don't mind if you have to pay to show the world who doesn't know you yet. But the fact that I had to pay to show the people who already admitted they liked me, that left a really sour taste in my mouth, and it kind of was the beginning of the end for me. And then the timeline where, all of a sudden I would post things and I went from a lot of likes on my personal account to like people never seeing them. Or you wake up the next morning and you're seeing a post from last night that like isn't even relevant anymore.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm hoping they do in this new platform, where it's that organic timeline where there's not a lot of manipulation in it. And if it is manipulative, it's for good. When we go through a radical change like this and there's a shift, it's going to hurt. Not everyone's going to be happy. There's going to be powers that be that are not happy because they know it's a threat. And there's going to be the people who don't have the futurist views, who are just angry at the change and don't want to come to this new space and are looking at all the negatives. Ali said it great, that the skeptics are the users and the haters are low IQ. It's a very weird, biased, and scarcity mindset when I see people in other spaces getting threatened by this. And we're seeing day by day that they're kind of coming around to it more. And if you look at some of the early investors, Sequoia, Social Capital, Chamath, Naval, the Winklevoss twins, these are people that I respect and that I'd like to emulate in some ways and learn from. And when I see them making a decision or an investment or a maneuver, like I pay attention,
Right. It got my attention for sure.
I ask why, okay, why?
Well, not only that, it struck me last night because I was in a room where a skeptic came in, and it was a very good conversation, not heated at all. And every member was there just to discuss. But as I was hearing it, and something struck me about, people pointing out what you just pointed out, the different investors and staking their reputation on this. But the one that stuck out to me suddenly was the Winklevoss twins, because, we all know that they have Gemini. Mm-hmm. They have a bit license. They have a rare bit license with the state of New York.
Yes.
Which they did, isn't forever. They could lose that. Mm-hmm. And they're trying to get an ETF from the SEC. So there's 2 guys that really want to impress and make the SEC like them.
Yeah.
And so do you really think they are going to try and do a rug pull scam? I just can't imagine it.
That's a great point. And I've been transparent since the beginning. I've said a lot, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if it's a scam or not.
I don't either. And I maybe don't point that out on this podcast enough, although I take great pains, if you actually listen to it, to say you will lose your money.
Yeah.
Don't speculate. But I also point out, I hate this fact that we have to keep saying that. I literally hate it. I cringe every time I say it. I cringe every time I hear people say it. But we say it because attorneys seize upon it, and I believe people need to take responsibility for their own lives, and that's negating that for them when we have to keep saying it. But enough about that.
No, yeah, we're talking about laws from 1947. We're talking a lot about speculative things that we just don't know. This is why people go to court for over a year, and there's lawyers on both sides battling with a judge and a jury to figure it out. Yeah. So if anyone comes in a room and tells you an absolute of what's going to happen, that's a red flag.
Right.
We don't know.
But I am firm in that. Do not do this type of stuff. Don't spend a single dime if you can't afford to be happy about losing it. Just be perfectly fine. Like, oh, well, it was fine. And, I just, I really don't, I know people will make foolish decisions.
Yeah, we had Cameron Harold in our room today, and many times, and he's just a very successful person who I respect, and he's looking at this like an angel investment, and he's been investing since 16 years old and has been very, very successful. And he's saying, hey, I do 5 angel investments a year, and I'm prepared to lose everything, and that's how I'm moving. And if someone as successful as that is saying that, I really enjoyed hearing that today, that the new guys in the game could take that and digest that and think about that, before they start going crazy.
Yeah.
But I also have seen guys come in with $10 and turn it into, double figures, so that's something, so if you're playing with house money at that point, it's like, come on, I tip my hat off to you.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's just I think we're all seeing the people that are really pumping. And that's, I think, the danger zone.
Yeah, I'm most interested in the innovators and the startups,
Yeah.
and less interested in the people we already know that are famous. I'm
Yeah.
thinking we're going to see people become BitClout famous now who we never knew about before. And my excitement is being able to invest on those types. That's going to be the huge wins where I'm like, told you so. I knew they were going to be hot. And that's because, of course, we already know who the established celebs are. We already know how cool they are. How are they going to add value? How are they going to one up themselves? It's the people we don't know. It's the people we don't know about yet.
Right. Yeah.
That's who I
Could
want.
be you.
Could be me.
Yeah. So I'm going to end this with 2 questions, kind of as one. So tell me what you see. What's the biggest red flag about this for you? And then what gives you the most confidence in it?
Yeah, 2 great questions. I haven't even really thought about the red flag, and maybe that's an issue. I guess the biggest red flag would be if anyone got in trouble or if anyone got hurt. That would hurt me, and I would hate to see that. If anyone gets in trouble for trading or doing something the wrong way that they didn't know how. But when we're dealing with mass adoption and potentially a million people, it's like, how are you gonna arrest everyone, or how are you gonna find everyone? And that's amazing because we have a collective now that is very powerful. There's a lot of power in that, and maybe some benevolence and fairness will come out of that, where some of these laws that do make sense should stay, and some of these laws that don't make sense should be altered or changed.
And it's not a United States entity.
Exactly.
There are a lot of people, like, look at the Russian contingent.
Yeah.
It's massive. And you think they care about the SEC? They probably get tired of hearing us talk about it.
Exactly. And then another red flag that just came to mind would be the fake accounts, the a-holes who are going in there and squatting on a unique name and pretending to be someone they're not. So everyone out there listening, before you invest in an account or a person, go to their other social platforms, go to their Instagram, go to their YouTube, go to their Twitter, see if they've already spoken about it, see if they've copy and pasted that link and verified their account, and shown their following that they're doing it. Do your homework, do your research, maybe DM them on BitClout. Since it's early, you can go and knock on people's doors that on the old land you cannot, because they get so much spam and so much responses. But now here you can, your favorite musician just joined and they only have 100 followers still. Boom, DM, reply. And if you add value and have a good value proposition, what's stopping them from wanting to work or collaborate with you, or re-clout you even?
Yeah.
And then maybe following you. And then 6 months later, a year later, people are going to be like, Bill, how does Elon Musk follow you?
Yeah.
Like, well, I DM'd him on the first week of the platform and no one else was following.
And it's not even Elon Musk.
So be careful, guys.
Yeah.
Be careful, guys and girls. Do your homework. Don't get that FOMO where you immediately see the account and click buy and without checking first. Take a deep breath. All
right. So what gives you the most confidence?
What gives me the most confidence is this community that we're building, that we have built, and that I'm experiencing and just loving. seeing these artists come up on stage and, you know, being brought to tears of joy because they're finally getting to showcase who they are. The first thought that comes to mind is Falsa music. The first time we brought Falsa up on stage and you heard his microphone and you heard this voice of just this beautiful voice with this unique sound. And I think one of my first questions to Falsa was like, "Hey man, what microphone are you using? Because you don't sound like anybody else here." And then he performed, and everyone was speechless. And then after he was done, you know, he almost held court. He became the main moderator of the room. And he was just so filled with joy and love of just saying, you know, this has never happened before. Like, I've been waiting for this moment my whole life. And I'm just sitting there, like, almost brought to tears. And that's when I started to get it of like what we're doing and what's happening.
So how does that apply to BitClout though?
Now people go over to his BitClout profile and follow him and invest in his coin, whereas they would have never even known who he was prior.
Yeah. See, what you just described to me, I wasn't expecting, because when I ask that question, I tend to hear a tech answer.
Yeah.
But you brought something way more human about it that maybe is far stronger than any tech they could build.
Exactly.
Evan Thor Torrens, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Or should we just say Thor?
Yeah, Thor Torrens at Thor Torrens on
right.
And
any websites you got?
Yeah, I got evantorrens.com. I got thortorrens.com. I got nycstreetmusic.com. I got rentmars.com, zekware.com,
uber.com,
ubillions.com.
Yeah. All right, man. I'm going to put all that in the show notes.
And ganjawave.com. Ganjawave, where I sell cannabis t-shirts. And maybe you can cut that out at the end. I don't know.
No, that might be your biggest moneymaker.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, man.
Hey, Bill, it was a pleasure.